difficult. Those of us, and I think any of us with children, have had the tantrum in public. They're really difficult moments, and you wing it. You basically wing it, don't you? Some of you will be in a space sometimes where you'll actually play the tantrum out, and you'll be brave enough to do that, and you'll sit nearby and let your child have the tantrum, and when they're over it, you'll get off and move. Some of you will just pick your child up and just move away. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Absolutely afterwards.
The boundaries and, you know, accept the boundaries and then try and steer them into an activity that's more, that's useful and, you know, what they want to do, you know, a directioned activity rather than letting them.
And I think that you've kind of answered your question, because what you would try and do is, as soon as you saw it unravelling, you'd actually get on top of it, and then you'd direct them to the activities that you wanted them to do and give them a clear view of what was acceptable. Yeah. Did you have something to say?
It was only along those lines as well, just that probably you couldn't leave them to their own devices. I mean, I'd say in that sort of situation on the board there, they'd been allowed to, perhaps they were in the house and the adults were outside, and so
I wonder that too.
You know, they were doing as they pleased, whereas, you know, sort of spending some time with them, perhaps setting them up. As you were
so
saying,
for you, as really an authoritative parent, it would be, you would actually keep them within eyesight. Yeah, you'd have to, wouldn't you? You just rein it in a little bit. You just know that they're not at a point where they can be out of sight. Okay, you did really well. I was going to do one more, but I think I'm pushing for time, so I'll just show you the one I was going to do, because you might like this one too. I love our Jacinta, but honestly, she's hard work and she's hard to like. She's so prickly, she's such a know-all, and she always have the last say. She does control the emotional climate in our house. She expressly presses my husband's buttons. He loses it over her. Fair enough, she's 11 going on 16. She keeps pushing the boundaries. Her demands are endless, but it's always been the same flavour. She picks on her younger brother, 9 years, mercilessly, although she's good to her younger sisters, 6 and 4 years old. How do we moderate her demanding behaviours and take control of the emotional tone in our house? A lot of parents look at that one and go, oh, I've got that. Yeah, I've got that. And I think we won't do that one, but I think some pretty obvious things here are her and her dad have now got a fractured relationship. That needs some work. You also wonder how much reward-based feedback Jacinta's got for being grumpy. How much that sulky face and that really sulky, sullen body language actually affects the house, but how much her parents have actually let it affect them too. Yeah, that's a really interesting one to work around. Now, in the time that I've got left, I want to finish off with just a couple of quick things. And then I'm really happy to take a few questions and just throw around a few ideas together, if you've got some. I'll do that now and just let you know that we'll do questions, because if I get to the end and I go, has anybody got any questions? That question, that creates such dead air. Everyone just goes, no. No, I haven't got any questions. So we'll do some. Thanks, actually, for being really joyful and playing with that particular scenario and just helping to embed the social control window in your mind, because I know you'll never forget it now, so it's great. Part of our role as parents, a big part of our role as parents, is to enable our kids, and I've come up with just 10 really simple enabling ideas to support our kids' great development into adulthood. It's in Raising Beaut Kids, but it's certainly in my book over there, which is for sale today, which is Parenting Tough Kids as well. So let's go through it. Number 1, I call them the 10 C's, and they're things that we can build as parents. Firstly, we can build our kids' competence. Help kids build a sense that they can problem solve, that they can handle situations. Encourage your kids to make choices. Hey, even if the outcome isn't as good as your choice would be, even if it's clumsy, even if it's awkward, encourage them to participate and encourage them to feel like they've got some say. Coach them to grow that lovely sense of competence. And then we head to confidence. How do we build confidence in our kids? Well, firstly, kids feel secure and attached when they feel like they are accepted by their mum and dad. And accepting kids that are easy to be with, that's the easy part of the equation. Some of you may have kids that are a bit tricky to be with. That acceptance is very difficult, because if we keep giving them sideways looks and we keep making comments that we can't accept who they are, we lose them. Personality can't be changed a lot. Behaviour, that can be worked on, that can be changed, but personality can't be. So I've got some advice for you. Think of one of your kids. Just think of one. And I want you to think about the unique qualities of that child. Which ticks the boxes? You ready? Fairness, gentleness, reliability, persistence, determination, lovingness, loyalty, honesty, kindness, and you could go on and on and on with lots of adjectives. Start to nail the adjectives that you see through your eyes for that child, and in conversation with that child, particularly in good times, make sure you use those adjectives, because your child's self-image is growing and your child needs you to insert how you see them with those qualities. They need to hear those adjectives from their mum, from their dad, from whoever's raising them frequently, so they get a sense of, oh, this is what I'm about. These are the qualities that other people see in me. Connection. A quality of a mum and dad's connection with their kids, absolutely crucial to their intellectual, social and their emotional development. We get that, okay? But just as important is your kids' social and emotional connection to their peers. Yes, same age kids. Not to adults, not to little kids, but to same age kids. Now, some of you sitting here will be thinking, that's good. That works really well. You're lucky and your child's lucky, because that's a really great precursor to good mental health. If your child doesn't easily connect to other kids, manipulate ways for them to have nice encounters with other children, whether it's through community groups, whether it's through playovers, whether it's through anything in your influence where you can get them to touch base with kids, have good experiences. It is so, so important. Change. Change is a big one. Every one of us uses negative scripts. It's just what we do. And it's when we use language that's kind of harmful to our kids, and it's usually triggered by frustration. It is. Like, I'll give you an example. Here's an obvious example. Mark, don't be so stupid. How many times do I have to tell you? What's wrong with you? Don't you ever learn? The negative scripts. I'll give you a more subtle negative script. You ready? How was school today? Were you happy today? School was bad again today, wasn't it? Did you have anyone to play with? Did anyone tease you? Were you happy today? What did you do at school today? It doesn't take long before kids at a really early age know that those kind of questions express your lack of confidence in their capacity to cope. Find a different way. Rather than going through your child, talk to your child's teacher. Set up a communication with your child's principal. to find out whether the week, the day is progressing well, but not through your child. I'd love $1 for every time I've had a 13 or 14-year-old banging their head on my desk or crying in my rooms with their parent next to them saying, "Mark, just tell my mum not to ask me how school is all the time. I'll tell her if it's not okay." It's really important. And never ever ask a child, "How was school today?" You know, you can ask a focused question. Like if somebody asks me, "So I've got this workshop this morning," then I'll go home, take the dogs for a walk with Sharon, and then I've got some work to do for a workshop I've got to do at Port Augusta. And then after that, I've got 2 social skills, what's the buzz group parties to finish off our semester with 2 groups of 8 autistic kids. And then after that, I'm doing this workshop at CBC tonight. By the time I get back home at, say, 10 o'clock tonight, if Sharon asks me, and remember I love Sharon, if Sharon asks me, "How was your day?" I'll slap her. Well, and it's the same with kids. What part of your day do you pick up on? A school day is big for kids. So you could ask a focus question from now on. And the focus question could be, "How was the maths homework I did for you last night? Did I pass?" Get a focus question going. There's a whole range of specific questions that you can ask about school rather than "How was your day?" Contribution. Give your kids a chance to contribute. Give your kids a chance to contribute to this world, to this community in some way. Give your kids a chance to give back rather than always just taking from you. If we want to actually spread our child's view of themselves and how they fit into the world and increase their resilience, they've got to see that they can give as well as take. Also, if there's only one thing that you take home from this workshop today, could you take this thing home and say this to your child tonight? You ready? You need to tell your child that this world is a much better world because they're in it. And it's a wonderful thing. And it doesn't matter whether there are ups and downs with their behaviours, the world is a better place because they're in it. Coping. You need to prepare your child to cope with life. What does this really mean? It means that you need to tell them really early, and if you haven't already, do it today. Life is full of wrongs and life is full of injustices. Tell them right now, alert them right now, that life is fabulous, but it ain't always fair. Some kids get really stuck on fairness. If you got stuck on fairness about everything that happens, you can't move on. Life's not fair. It's not set up to be fair. You look at the world, you look at world politics, you look at the monetary system, you look at climate. Life's not fair. The world's not fair. Our kids need to know really early on that life is not fair, and it is our work to constantly work through those challenges. Control, a really big one. Our world is filled with great kids prone to perfectionism, distress, anxiety, jealousy, or some kids who just think way too much. They're just too smart for their own good. And when they get stressed and when they don't want to do what you want them to do, what do you often see them doing? They'll pull out what we call a power card and they'll become oppositional. They might throw a tantrum. They might run away, they might hide, they might just be not compliant. And then what do we see parents often doing? Raising themselves up, puffing out their chests, getting bigger than the child and actually being as powerful back to them. Try and be flexible. Try and understand that what's driving that controlling behaviour in a child is often anxiety. It's often worry about how can I actually deal with this thing? Because you know what? If I take control, I know what mum's going to do next, or I know what dad's going to do next. He's going to get really angry. He's going to yell and scream. Then he'll feel really sorry down the track for me, and then we'll sit on the bed and then I'll get what I want. Be really flexible with your thinking and always try and look at the emotion underneath the behaviour rather than the behaviour by itself. And communication, it's a really big one, but it's so simple. You ready? Just be a great listener. Yeah, that's right. Just zip it up. Just be a great listener and just kind of be a Dr. Phil. Just kind of repeat back to kids as they're telling you the story, the event as it unfolds. Just try and phrase questions back to them, because what are you trying to do as a great listener? You're trying to give them a key of questions so that they can unfold their thinking, and then you can lead them to a point where they can make some decisions. This is in fact a 20-year plan, because if you embed this style of thinking in them by being a great listener, giving reflective questions back, you're setting up a framework they can use for the rest of their life every time they come across a difficulty. Competition. Oh, look, I think that we need to be really careful. I think it's a really lovely notion that everybody in the netball team or everybody in the basketball team gets a medal at the end of the season. But I think we also need to be really thoughtful and nurturing in recognising that some people do have talent, some people are lucky sometimes, and that we learn a lot by losing and we learn a lot by winning. I don't think we advantage our kids by shielding them from winning and losing. And last one, good old common sense. Well, it's pretty normal to be happy. It's pretty normal to be sad. And we're usually stuck somewhere on a continuum in the middle, you know, a midpoint range, a neutral range. I don't see too many parents saying to their children, hey, come on, calm down. Stop being so giggly and stop being so happy. It's okay for kids to be sad. Supported, yes, by loving parents, nurtured by loving parents, but I like kids being sad, because if they're supported and if they're taught ways to come back from being sad to that neutral range so that they can problem solve. You can't problem solve when you're sad. You don't spend time with your kids when they're sad over amounts of time giving lots of suggestions, because you know what it's like when you're sad. Your brain doesn't work anyway. You don't want to find solutions. Why would kids want to? Of course they won't. So you work out ways where they can move back from their sadness to a neutral zone. Then you solve problems. That empowers kids, that enables kids, that promotes resilience. All right, that brings me really to the end of today, and I hope that it's a really nice little view into how you might manage your kids. I hope you liked the social control window. If you think you might like raising Beaut Kids, shoot me a quick email and just say, Mark, put me on the list, and I'll do that for you. But I have to just finish off kind of where we started, and it was, I've never met any perfect parents. I've never met perfect families. We raise our kids trying the best we can, reviewing what we're doing, moving in new directions that we think are better. We do it with warts and all, and sometimes it's pretty raw, and sometimes families go through really difficult stages, but all you can do is keep loving your kids and just keep reviewing what you're doing and constantly saying to yourself, am I enabling my child, or is my management model disabling or harming my child potentially? Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you.